Salam and greeting everyone. Indra here. You are with Coffee Ustaz and welcome to the show. Today we have a jam pack of discussion that we're going to embark on our show. And allow me to introduce our guests. And we have our main speaker with us. He's the Imam Executive of MASJID Khalid Singapore. And he has an Islamic degree in fiqh and usul fiqh, mainly on the discussion of comparative fiqh. And he is now pursuing his master degree in fiqh. And besides Islamic degrees, he also possesses diploma in electronics from Temasek Poly. And inshallah, also we have a very renowned figure who is also education. He's part of the education system. He's a senior lecturer for diploma in aviation management. He has an experience of 10 years in the industry and 10 years in education, and he has a bachelor in aviation from Massey University, New Zealand. And allow me to welcome our guest speaker for today, Ustaz Anwar Hussein and Mr. Farid Yusof. Welcome to our show. Ahlan wa sahlan, everyone.
Thank you so much.
How are you? Good. All right. Allow me to have a short introduction about peer pressure. For the role of peer pressure, it plays a very significant role on our daily lives. And I believe this topic on peer pressure have a constant impact on the involvement of a certain individual in terms of their personal development, academic developments, and so on. And to understand further, what we are going to discuss mainly on this topic is that the dynamics of this peer pressure, on how can we maneuver the topic of peer pressure into our advantage, so we can apply in our daily life, inshallah. So allow me to pose the first question to our guest speaker, Mr. Farid Yusof, who is a lecturer in aviation, in diploma of aviation. Mr. Farid, with your experience in your daily interactions and engagement with the youth especially, and you yourself plays a mentoring role, in the education system. From your point of view, what is your take on and your understanding of the role of peer pressure in our youth setup? That's one. And how does it relate into their personal development or academic development, especially approaching from the negative perspective outcome and from the positive outcome? Maybe you can elaborate further on that.
Okay. Assalamualaikum everyone. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you so much for inviting me to come here to share a bit. Based on your question, I think in both aspects, in both groups, that there's been a lot of research been done about peer pressure. Be it in both either motivated or non-motivated group of people. Okay, peer pressure can have both positive and negative impacts.
Yes.
And that also translates into the positive or negative impact on academic results. Okay. For example, if we want to talk about the positive side of the impact, is that yes, if you are within circle of friends who are motivated to excel and all, you may also have that peer pressure to
excel.
To excel. No. But on the flip side,
yes,
that so-called positive, conducive environment can also turn negative if you being pressured so much by your peers and are unable to perform. You might also go astray, like things like, for example, cheating.
Yes.
Copying from other sources and not doing your own work. So because you are driven by results. So that is the impact of in a positive, conducive environment. Okay. On the other side is we have the non-focused group or non-motivated group. Okay. That's a little bit more challenging, because why? Both can also have and this group also can also have positive and negative impacts.
Yes.
For example, if one I'm in a non-motivated bunch of friends, and I'm also not motivated. No, everybody does their things, and we just go to school for the sake of going to school.
Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
you know, the result is going to be negative. But if I am with a bunch of non-motivated friends, but I do have some sense of responsibility that I need to achieve, then I will be motivated to do better than the rest. So in all aspect, we have good and bad, and every decision that they make, definitely there will be has pros and cons.
I agree with you because to a certain extent, students do need some originality in them rather than they copy their peers, you know, or they duplicate the characteristic of their own peers.
Correct.
And in fact, this is something that most youngsters or most students face in the academic level, where they are still searching. Should I excel? Should I be among those we can say nerdies, is bookworms, and those who are really focused and inclined into academics excellence? And we have the other aspect where they are more relaxed. You want to have just a just pass grade. I mean, you bring up a very interesting point there, and I would like to pose a question to Ustaz Anwar. How can we relate the topic of this peer pressure, as per what Mr. Farid have really laid out, the foundation of that basis, that we can relate this topic mainly to the Islamic teachings and tradition. Tafadhal ya Ustaz.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. First of all, I would like to thank Seekers Media and yourself for this opportunity, for this discussion on the topic of peer pressure. And the question is on the perspective of Islam, and based on the Islamic teachings, what is this relation of peer pressure that has been spoken by Islam. We have many hadiths of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam pertaining to this topic in general. For example, then we have the hadith that is narrated by Al-Imam Abu Dawud, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned al-rajulu ala dini khalilihi. Al-rajulu ala dini khalilihi, meaning the religion of a person, it is dependent on the religion of the one who he accompanies with. Basically, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying that human beings, they are influenced by those around them. This is what you call it. In reality, it is a weakness on the part of the human beings. Meaning, if you put a particular person with a group of good people, that's what you call it. Mr. Farid mentioned. If you put a particular person and with good people, the chance of him becoming good and influenced by this company of good people is high. After some time, he can change and he can become good, due to the fact that he is influenced by the company that he is in. Likewise, if you put a person in a bad company, after some time also he will be influenced by all these bad characteristics that within that particular company that he is in. So here our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that insan, that human beings, we are easily influenced by our societies. We are easily influenced by the person that we are close with. To such an extent, our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, even in deen, even in religion, that your religion is also what will be affected by with the people that you are in. And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he advised us, say, "Falyanzur man yukhalil, falyanzur man yukhalil," and he has to see who is the person that he keeps in touch with. So from this particular hadith, we understand about the importance to choose the right company, to choose good people and to be friends with. So once we understand what you call it, a particular a trait or a good characteristic that is present in this particular company, and then we associate ourselves in this particular company, because we understand that by being with this company, we will also what you call it be influenced by the good characteristics. So this is the nature of human beings. So that is why we have many hadiths in this regard. That the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam encourage us to mix any with people who are pious, to mix any people who are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to mix any with people of knowledge, to mix any with the ulama, to mix any with the awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because even though if you are not like them, but at least you get what you call it, the effect. Yes, you get the effect of that particular company.
Well, a good point, man. Going back to your circle of friends, I think peer pressure, you have to go back to the circle of exposure. I mean the exposure of your circle of friends mainly. If you're mixing with a good form of friends who always encourage you to do good, and to encourage you to be a better person as a human being, as a student, as a son, as a father, as a in any role that man plays in our daily life. Right. So I believe it is a factor where we can discuss further on this topic of friends. So for the viewers at home, we will break into a segment where we will discuss and in fact we're going to watch a more realistic video on the topic of peer pressure, and this video is brought to you by our partner SAHABAT Production, and I hope you all enjoy this video. All right.
Eric, sini lah. Alamak, mana kau nak pergi? Sinilah, jangan buang masa lah Eric. Sini, aku nak cakap dengan kau sikit. Sini. Apalah. Eric, macam. Mana kau nak pergi? Kelas kau start pukul apa?
Pukul 2 kan kelas kita.
Sekarang pukul berapa, babe? 1:59.
Yelah, nak kena masuk sekarang.
Kau cakap dengan Lu.
Apa?
Kita masuk sama-sama, tapi Lu mesti ikut gua. Kita pergi jumpa, kita member tak nak. Macam?
Tak nak lah.
Apa lu kecoh sangat? Apa aku resah sangat?
Malam dah tak pergi kelas.
Malam pun aku tak pergi kelas. Tak apa, kita pergi jumpa sana. Nanti kau practice, aku angkat.
Betul tak betul?
Betul, babe. Betul. Lu tak percaya gua ke apa? Kau tak percaya aku ke apa?
Lepas ni datang balik.
Betul, confirm.
Okey
Okey.
Betul
Sweet.
Kita memang nak dulu lah.
Cuy datang Aku bagi rumah kau ni. Kita member ni. Kau orang yang kuningnya, barang baiknya. Nak menangkan ni. Kau kenal lah ni. Ini kan?
Macam model ke?
Kompok, kita mesti monjol punya ni. Masuk. Buat diri dulu lah.
Jadi budak baru cing dulu lah Ni air jangan jauh Okay. Belajar cing Anak tu yang mata kan Dia gini je
Bos. Ni apa ni?
Apa betul ni?
Kau jangan stres sangat. Kau jangan stres sangat. Kau try ni benda dulu.
Stress tu
Try lu.
Try ni air lah Aku tak minum lah
Sikit je, sikit je.
Macam panas minum Golfer pun minum dia dah
Sikit
Aku tak
je.
boleh
Try je, sikit je. Tu kalau dah minum,
tak
bermakna
mati lah Tak nak lah Kau nak join kita making ke tak nak ni?
sikit je. Sikit je.
Sikit dah kau jangan habiskan Macam mana ni minum je
Minum je, sikit je tak apa.
Sikit je
Yes lah.
Baru memang gini
Baru memang gini.
Baru gitulah Alamak Kita mata-mata tau nak berjaya ni Jalan Cing tapi aku tak puas hati lah tengok dia minum macam gini je Tak nak lah
Eric.
Ya, Daddy. Ingat pesan ayah. Jagalah diri kamu, jangan campur dengan orang-orang yang tidak berguna. Pelajaran yang paling penting agar engkau berjaya menjadi orang-orang yang berguna di dunia dan di akhirat. Allah.
Asal lah ni
Aku dah tak ramai lagi. Kasih habis
Dia ni
lah.
perangai lah. Belah lah Mat.
Eric, apa dah jadi ni?
Saya dah penat lah Prof. Saya lari daripada Jason dengan kawan-kawan tadi semua. Saya dah tak nak campur diorang lagi ya.
Baru beer.
Ya.
Kau belum beer ke?
Tak. Sikit je.
Berani pula awak mengaku.
Diorang tadi paksa saya semua minum. Saya dah insaf Prof, saya dah insaf. Saya dah teringat pesan-pesan arwah ayah saya. Saya dah insaf, saya dah tak nak campur diorang semua lagi.
Apa yang ayah awak pesankan?
Dia dah pesan saya jadi orang yang soleh, jadi anak yang baik, ingat dengan ajaran Allah.
Nih, mari. Saya ada benda nak bawa awak.
Okey Prof.
Eric, saya ada perkara nak nasihatkan awak. Doanya seorang ayah itu adalah doa yang mustajab. Maka itulah ada satu perkara yang sangat diberkati di sisi Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. Ingat, belajar sungguh-sungguh. Jadi anak yang soleh seperti ayah awak inginkan.
Baik Prof. Saya insaf Prof.
Ku coba redahkan relung hati, bayangmu yang berlalu pergi, terlukis di dalam kenangan, bebas bermain di hatiku, cerita tentang masa lalu.
What a lovely video there from our good friends from Sahabat Production. Masya Allah. So allow us to continue with the content. So I have a second question for Mr. Farid. Going back to the character of Eric People, and just now when we watched the video, we believe that he is pressured by his peers, right, in terms of being there to drink the alcoholic beverage, and also before leading to the alcoholic beverage, he was there to actually skip his lectures or classes. So we want to discuss on this topic, being that how can we relate, especially to those students out there, for them to actually remain focused in their academic studies. In order for them to, the reason why they need to remain focused, because again, their parents send them to school, they need to at least not excel well, at least have good grades, pass their exams, and fulfill their parents' requests, for them to actually excel in academics. So, what is your point? What is your view for this topic? For this question actually, where they, how can they remain focused? And
I guess they should have some form of structured lifestyle. Meaning is that in the morning you go to school, spend a couple of hours in school, and then after that they should have some CCA probably, or if you don't have any CCA, you would want to just go back home or go to the library to do some revision, or catching up with your project and all that stuff. So having some structured lifestyle would actually help them focus on certain things lah. Based on what you have just said, that you want students to focus or youngsters to focus, it also require part from the parents to still also get involved in their lifestyle also lah. In this case, parent can play a little bit more active role in the sense of getting involved in their child's, not just their academic performance, okay, also their other activities such as their after CC, so even after school activities. Youngsters being youngsters, they would have time to go out to socialize with friends and all.
yes,
Make it know know their friends who they're mixing with, or even if they were to meet up, invite them over to the house. That's what I do, and try to avoid you know, for me at least, you know, to try to minimize, not avoid, but minimize them being outside in the public.
But do you really think that students nowadays can easily get bored by their normal daily routines? So that's why they tend to lose focus in certain ways.
They get bored, but again here, going back to the first question just now, we want to see who we mix around with. Like Ustaz Noah just said, no, relating it back to Islamic studies, you know, the people that we mix around with are very important. We want to mix with the correct bunch of people and all. What I advise my students, or at least my children, is that try to find friends or peers that leads you, you know, spiritually to God, to Allah,
to that path,
to the path of Allah. So and inshallah they you know, they will be in a good bunch of peers lah.
MashaAllah. I mean, the topic about focus is so relevant in our daily life. I mean, not in the aspect of just students from the tertiary level. I mean, it can go downwards, or it can start from the early childhood stage, the primary stage, and leading up to the secondary stage, and then tertiary stage, and then when a teenager is ready to enter adulthood space, that's where they need more focus in life. Definitely. That means, so the transition of focus for every stage is quite drastic, according to the nature of this life itself. So I would like to pose a question to Ustaz Anwar. Again, going back to the show just now, the short clip, to the character of Eric People, a name that is very very nice, you know. So Eric People, I believe he have been manipulated by his friends. On the initial stage, he might have he does possess a certain belief, he does possess a certain principles, but due to the constant pressure from his friends, it's hard for him to shine it away. So I would like to ask Ustaz, how can people like him, or in general, identify bad influence out there before actually entering it and indulging in that kind of mistake? How can they actually identify that bad influence, and how can they align themselves with positive influence? That means again, with the correct people, with the correct minds, that for them to actually develop as a person.
First of all, I believe it is important for a person to have this differentiation. What is good and what is bad. Normally, people have this understanding and this perception that taking drugs is a bad thing. For Muslims, for example, generally people understand that drinking alcohol or consuming intoxicants is something that is not only
forbidden,
bad, but it is forbidden in Islam.
Yes.
There are certain things that certain rulings that people understand that it is not correct, or it is something that is bad. So there are things that are generally known as such. There are certain things that is not really known, where a person need to seek knowledge in order to make that differentiation. But the minimum requirement is that for a person, especially for a Muslim, is able to differentiate what is good and what is bad, in the sense that if he sees this particular company, for example, taking drugs or drinking liquor and free mixing, at least he must understand that this is something that is not correct, even what you call it ethically and also Islamically. So he at least the minimum is he has to make this differentiation. They is able to recognize which is good and which is bad. So from here, this is actually also the role of the parents at home to educate their children, to what you call enrich them with some knowledge, that when they go out into the society, they are able to differentiate between what is a good company and what is a bad company. But the real challenge is what you call in the video, in the case of Eric. That's what you mentioned. He knows that this is something which is bad. The way he drink the what you call it, the beer.
Yes.
he knows that this is something that is that is not correct. In a sense, what you call, he shouldn't in the first place be what you call be drinking any this thing. But because any of his influence, because any of the peer pressure and so on, then what you call, he decided to drink. So normally, and we have any this case where you know this is something any that is bad, but it is because any of your situation and because any of your weakness, you perform this this particular act despite and you know that it is something that is wrong. I believe this is the biggest any challenge, the biggest challenge. So having knowledge, this particular thing is good, this particular thing is bad, it's not enough. The real challenge any is how are you able any to apply any this knowledge. Meaning, if you know taking drugs any is bad, if you know drinking any liquor any is forbidden, you might have any possess any the knowledge. But the real challenge is how you abstain any yourself any from this particular act. So it doesn't mean that a person knows that automatically he's able any to practice. Here we find that knowledge any is one thing. Practicing that knowledge is another thing. And usually the biggest any problem is not knowledge. Usually the biggest problem any is the thing in human being, his inability and to practice any what he knows, even though this is something that he knows that it is the truth. But because any of the nature any of insan, because any of the nafs, because any of the desire, the inclination any of the self any towards these vices, they cannot control any themselves. So they indulge any in this what you call it form any of sin. What you call it due to their weaknesses and due to the influence and so on and so forth. So that is why we find there is a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What you call it, before I what you call it I stopped it there. Basically in general it's a long hadith mentioned by Imam Nawawi, for example, in Riyadus Salihin, about a person and who killed 99 people, and he knows that this is something that is forbidden in Islam, and he wants to make tawbah. So he went to the scholar and asked the scholar, I've killed 99, and before this I make it 100. Because before that he met a priest, someone who makes ibadah, and then that priest was telling that there is no forgiveness any for you because you killed 99. So I kill that person and make it 100. So the scholar told him there is tawbah for you, but there is a condition. This is a thing which is difficult, and usually among the youth nowadays. The scholar told him that in order for you to make tawbah to Allah, you have to leave your society. You have to leave the society because why? Because the society that this particular person is living in is the society where people are committing murders and people are doing all these vices. So in order for you need to change, you have to live that society, and you have to go to a particular society for some time and make tawbah there and seek knowledge there.
It's a kind of like a treatment or therapy phase.
Oh yes. This is the meaning of hijrah. One of the aspects of hijrah, migration. We have the spiritual migration, and this is very important because there are people who do not have the ability to change as long as they are in their society. So they are in need of themselves to get out of that situation, to get out of that influence, because of this what you call it, this weaknesses that they have. So it all goes back into the question: does this particular person has the strength and the courage to leave that company, to live in that society? And normally, what I see in our current society, and this was based on my experience, many of our youths are trapped in this particular situation. Meaning, they want to change. They know what they are doing and it is wrong. For example, if they are taking drugs, and for example, they know this is wrong. If they are drinking any intoxicants, they know this thing is wrong. If they are stealing, they know it's wrong. But it's just that they keep on doing again and again. If you ask them, do you know that this something is wrong? And they will say they want to make tawbah to Allah. They will say they want to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But they keep on falling at the same again and again. What is the reason? The reason we can benefit from the hadith and of the person who killed 99 souls is their inability to get their situation, to get themselves out of that situation and to hijrah and to be to a place. And also they do not know where to go. This is another problem. They are able, for example, you have people who are able to get themselves out of the situation, but where? Where do they go? Nobody need to guide them. So that is our role, that we have to play in our society, is that we have to provide what you call it a space for this youth, or for what you call people who wants to change, that they are able to come into a good company, and we can provide them with all the necessary things that they need for them to do the process of changing.
The top man that you mentioned about guidance, man, definitely in our society we are really in need of guidance. Man, guidance give directions, you see. So if especially for the youth, they like you mentioned, they know that this is wrong, they know that, and they are very well aware that they are committing wrongdoings, but still without proper guidance, we can't channel them to the right direction. So I have a question for Mr. Farid. In general, for teenagers, especially, or youngsters especially, they love the feeling of being accepted by the society. I mean, going back to Ustaz, what Ustaz mentioned, without proper guidance, they can't have a progress in their life. And going back to the nature of every youngsters, they would love to be accepted by their peers, be it in a positive, be in a positive perspective or the negative perspective. So how can a parent play a very significant role in contributing into the development of a certain young individual, especially when it comes to academics, character, in life especially, because not just to excel in academics, but we want them to excel in life as a person. So how can a parent play that role and actually pivotize them to the channel that they actually that they actually want?
Well, I guess I'm also a parent, but I'm also learning. As part of the parenthood job is to actually not just educate. Mothers are our first teachers, our first worldly teachers. Okay, because they gave birth to us, and then we spend more of the time being milk and all that, and then followed by father, and then in the context of direct family, that will be your siblings. And that will be our first peer pressure classroom, really.
I see.
Okay, so in the family context itself, we already have a sort of a live demo, okay, and the dynamics of the family have to be positive also. So it is not easy. For myself also, I have 4 kids and of very wide range of ages, and each are developing and entering different phases of life. So the challenges are there. But one thing I always reiterate to my kids, very basic rules or very basic characteristic I want to instill in them. Things like integrity, things like respect, things like responsibility, which is in line all with Islam. Okay? Integrity, it doesn't mean that we do good things in front of people only. We need to do good things when people are not looking. There's something, because why? Allah is still looking.
Yes, correct.
Right. Number 2, in terms of respect, you definitely have to respect the elders, be it your parents, be it your extended families, your uncles, your grandparents, your teachers, your elders. You still have to show that, because respect at the end of the day is 2 ways. I respect you, and automatically the teachers or the parents will respect them also. As their child, as another human being also. And last is responsibility. And that again here, at the home, I mean at the house or the home's environment, we instill that to be responsible for every decision that you make and every point of your life. So basic fundamental of Islam should be emphasized in the what they call it, the home lah.
Yes.
Before our kids go out and then be exposed to the society. I think that's about it.
A good point where you bring about the peer pressure start from home, or in fact it start from the relationship that you have between your parents, your siblings, and it can extend to your cousins. So it's a very interesting dynamic for us to understand, where things that is established at home will be practiced when they go out from outside of their house. So, Ustaz, to sum up our discussion here, we understand that peer pressure is a essential tool where a person can actually use it to a great success, to maneuver this peer pressure for his gain. So in order for him to gain success, and also peer pressure can be the element of failures for a person. That means if he makes with the wrong companies, that is the ingredient or the element of for failures. So I would like to ask you a question. For those out there who are really in search of proper guidance, what would be your great advice for them who are confused? Mainly, they still have no knowledge on how to handle peer pressure, and they can easily be manipulated by this peer pressure approach. And but how does Islamic teaching able to reach out to them, give them a good form of advice where they can get their life back in track?
In short, what I can advise, if a person find himself in a situation where he finds it difficult, for him, what you call it, to be, what you call it, practicing, what you call it, a good characteristic, or becoming any, what you call it, a practicing Muslim, and so on and so forth. I believe the concept of hijrah is one of it. It is what you call it, to force oneself to get out of his situation. So if he find himself in a bad company, not in a good company, then what you call it, he has to sacrifice. He has to sacrifice, and to get out of this situation, and to go to what you call it, a situation or company which is
better,
a good company. What I can recommend is, I mean, if this particular person, he does not know, okay, what is a good company, or where does he go, for example, because there are people out there who do not have any guidance, nobody to guide them. What they can do is go to the mosque. Go to the masjid, and subhanallah, in Islam, the concept of masjid, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, innama ya'muru masajidallahi man amana billahi wal yawmil akhir. Masjid, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that if you find those people coming into the masjid, these are the people of iman. Especially if they come to the masjid frequently to perform the prayers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala witness that these are the people who have faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are people who are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So my advice to youth, for example, if they are totally lost, and they do not have any guidance, and they don't have anyone to guide them, then the place of hijrah is the masjid. The place of hijrah is the masjid. And if you look even in the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ emphasized on masjid. And the hadith, the famous hadith, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that one of the person who is going to get the shade of Arash of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Yawm al-Qiyamah, rajulun qalbuhu mu'allaqun bil masajid. It is a person whose heart is attached to the masjid. So I would advise this person to go to the masjid and seek help from the people there in the masjid. Of course, you need to observe, not everyone at the masjid, what you call it, are willing to go to the extra mile for you. But subhanallah, if you are sincere, this is my belief, if you are sincere and you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you really want to change, Allah will show you the way out. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show you that we must have this faith. That even though the society that doesn't accept you, nobody accepts you, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept you. And if you return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you must have husnul zan and good intention to Allah, that Allah will accept you. But at the same time also we have to make the sacrifice.
Yes.
The sacrifice of hijrah. Go out of your situation. Go to the masjid. Meet these people. Look at people who are in the masjid, constantly coming to the masjid, doing da'wah in the masjid. You know, these are the people who are upright.
Yes.
Go to them and ask them for advice.
Yes.
And I believe these people, they will be happy to
reach out
help
to
you, because they themselves maybe they understand about this importance. So if a person comes to them, they are willing to guide, and so on and so forth. Some people, they are just waiting for people to come to them.
Yes.
So if you make the courage to come and to seek an advice, you will find many people will, what you call it, will be able to help you. But everything goes back to our willingness. Are we willing in the first place to go out of our situation? Because this is the most difficult. I believe is the most difficult, and it is to get out any of the company that he's in. And this is the biggest challenge because of the peer pressure. When his friends find out that he goes into the masjid, and the friends might mock him.
Yes, true.
The friend might mock him. What you call it? How can you go to the masjid? We are like this, and how you are like this, and so on. This is the point where he needs support. So he needs any support from the other side.
Yes.
To keep on giving any motivation after motivation for him. To tell him that it is okay, that you need to be patient. Has to read Sirah of the Prophet ﷺ, the early Sahaba when they are in Makkah. When the Prophet ﷺ entered into the fold of, people entered into the fold of Islam, they receive a lot of challenges. How the Prophet ﷺ educated the Sahaba and give them encouragement. It is the same thing that we are in need and need to enliven within within our society. So hopefully Allah Subhanahu wa Taala make it easy, inshallah.
Amin, amin. A good point where Ustaz bring up about going back to the masjid. I mean, there is a community effect. A masjid possess a community effect. So every community must have a center where they can return to. So to sum up what we have discussed today, in just a point form, we discussed about the topic of peer pressure. So we discussed on the aspect where peer pressures has the negative aspect and does produce the positive aspect. At the same time, also for the origins of peer pressure, it always starts with a person who desire acceptance. So that is also something where our viewers out there can take a look on that, ponder on that thought, and have that self-realization whether you are that sort of personnel where you always desire acceptance in the community. And Ustaz also mentioned in our discussion that religion is the religion of a person is one of who he accompanies himself with. So that also is a very important topic where you have to take note on that, or I myself or we ourselves is a form of reminder where good company will come good result in terms of your development, your character building, and it will achieve a lot of positive aspect in your life. And last but not least, Ustaz mentioned about masjid being the center of the community, a center where we can return to, a center where we can always search for assistance and help in terms of the deen. So inshallah, for what we have discussed today is a very fruitful discussion, and I would love to thank, and it's an honor for me and for our Seekers Nest Media to have Mr. Farid Yusof on board today to discuss on the topic of peer pressure, and especially to Ustaz Anwar Hussein for really enlightening us on the aspect of peer pressure, where we really need to know what's the direction, how to for us as an individual to manage this topic as a whole. And I would like to take this opportunity also for Seekers Nest to actually thank our sponsors, Natureville, and we would like to also take this opportunity to thank our sponsor for this shooting location, WALAKU Cafe, located at 102 Juchat Road. Please feel free to come down and have a dining session with your families and friends here. And such a fruitful session. And again, shukran jazilan Ustaz Anwar and Mr. Farid Yusof for really inputting such a very good discussion here. And inshallah we will continue with our episodes in the coming future. And if you have a question or comments, please do comment on our Facebook page. Do comment on our, give a shout out on our Facebook page. Inshallah, we will meet again on our next episode. Stay healthy, stay focused, stay seeking. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.